It's such a coincidence that DIl Chahta is the album that you'll play. Because I'm going to start my talk with composing the music of DIl Chahta. So, that is, it's now, it's now been 16 years, So that album has held out for 16 years. It's still somewhere on the charts, maybe number 72 or something on the charts. It's still there. So I recall, when Farhan Akhtar came and met us to compose this film, and he said that, I'm doing this for the first time. I'm working with you guys for the first time. We had done a couple of films before that, like Mission Kashmir and stuff like that. So he's saying, let's just experiment and see what happens, So he said, but I want you guys to come with me for 2 weeks out of town. So we went to a place called Khandala, which a lot of people a lot of you guys must be knowing about it. So there's 3 of us who went with Farhan Akhtar and Javed Akhtar. And we sat there and we had fun for 3 days, for 4 days. And the idea was to go there for a long time. But magically, the album was composed in 3 days with lyrics and everything. That whole album was ready. We were getting ideas for the album while driving up the ghats in the rain, while looking at the greenery and just looking at the mist coming in the morning. That's when we got the idea of Kaisi Hai Rut, which you must have heard, created a whole soundscape of this entire ambient, beautiful fantasy. So the thing is, of course, it was creativity flowing at its fullest, but then when I look back on it, what was the most important thing that happened there? It was imagination, And Farhan Akhtar gave us a thing. He said, I'm giving you a white blank canvas, and here's like a myriad amount of paints. I want you to just go and paint on this canvas, and let's see what happens. And that's the main thing that I thought I'd talk about, because music, my successes, our successes as Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy, beyond imagination, has happened. There's a lot. We've got the national award, we've got this award, we've had hits, we performed for 80,000 people, we performed for 120,000 people, we've toured the world. All that is available on Google, the way it is nowadays. But then I said, let me talk about the core thing, which is imagination itself. We were like 3 little children, or like 3 children and 2 more children, including one 60-year-old who was Javed Akhtar, who's still a child, according to me, and Farhan Akhtar, the combination being the funniest 2 people you'll ever meet. So it was like 70% laughing, and it was 20% work, and 10% resting and eating and stuff like that. So we were like little children, and when you be that way is when your imagination starts flowing, because that is what you need to be. And then you're talking about children, ever since I was told, first of all, let me tell you, you guys have chosen the best topic to talk about. Really give yourselves a hand for that. So the thing is that we were like children, and then talking about children, ever since I was told about this topic being beyond imagination, suddenly I've been observing things all over the place and seeing how imagination is manifested in such beautiful things all around the world. The other day I was at a restaurant, and there was a table next to me, and there were these 2 kids sitting there, and they were not eating their vegetables. We've all done that, we've all hated eating vegetables, at least I have. So they had mashed potatoes and they had broccoli, which would be like a very drab kind of combination, boiled. So one of the kids had a bit of mashed potato, and he put a broccoli on top of it. And he's saying, that looks like a green tree in the middle of the desert. And then the other kid said, no, but that looks like a green tree in the middle of Antarctica. They just kept going on and on with ideas about this piece of broccoli in the mashed potatoes. And in the end, they were coming out with ideas that this is a green nuclear explosion, this is an alien on something, some other planet, this is Pluto, this is Venus and stuff. And you know what? The beautiful thing was at the end of that, they ate their food. They didn't complain about it. So that is the power of our imagination. Imagination is everything. People like Arthur C. Clarke, the famous author, who in 1952 wrote a story, fiction story about geostationary satellites, which became reality in the 60s. So where is that? So imagination is all so powerful that the smallest of ideas imagined become the biggest of movements around the world. And the thing is, imagination is where empathy begins. Imagination is where hope is. I think the way forward is imagination. For me, myself, as far as, say, talking about empathy, is that, I've had a rough childhood, having lost my dad at a very young age, so you go through your things that you go through as a child, which may not be so good, but may not be so bad either. But the thing is that I had this inherent thing of imagining all the time. I'd be, for loss of a better word, in fantasy all the time. I used to get kicked out of class. I used to get told, and they'd be talking about geography and stuff like that. And I'd tell the teacher, hey, it's raining outside. So the teacher would tell me, what are you concentrating on? Are you concentrating on the geography or are you concentrating on what's raining outside? But I thought that was beautiful because all that imagination was my healing. And that healing is what I can use, and that imagination is what I can use to empathize with other people today. So I have randomly musicians and all calling me up and messaging me on Facebook that, sir, this is the thing that I've been offered this, what do you think I should do? And so I'm like become this agony aunt for every musician who is in touch with me. So it's a brilliant thing. So empathy begins there. And then, you look at children today, and when you talk about visual media, which is like the teaching system for children today, where it's instant gratification. You look at whatever device, and you get, okay, this is the thing. So I said, let me do some research about that how is that affecting imagination? And the fact is that looking at devices like that is very good for short-term memory, but very bad for imagination. And the thing is, what the world needs the most right now is imagination. I mean, look at the way the world is. Look at what's going on around you. Where is the hope? Where is everything? Stuff like that. And then, I started researching. This is one of my pet topics, is to research World War II and the Holocaust. I've done a lot of reading about it, for God knows what reason, but I've always been interested in it. And then there were these concentration camps, which is Auschwitz, and we've heard of all of them and how terrible they were and how many people died there and how many people were murdered to the point where the inmates of the camp stopped believing in God. They're saying there cannot be a God if this is what's happening to us and he's not coming to our rescue. But the few who did survive had one thing, and that was imagination. That was imagination. They hoped, and imagination built them hope, and they survived. And today they're back with all their beliefs and everything, and you're talking to other people about the same thing. So I feel that children, I think, because you guys are the generation of the future, you all will have children, you all will, make sure that they read. We grew up at a time when there was no television. We used to not have a TV in the house. We used to just read books. We used to read Enid Blyton and see that, oh man, this is such a beautiful place, Mallory Towers. There's a sea there, and there's a dog with black and white spots, and you'd be in that. So it really developed imagination and developed so much more. And so I'd say that, for your kids and all that, do that. And now, eventually, you guys will become busy people. You'll be working. It'll become like a routine. You'll go to work. In fact, I was just talking to you about that earlier. You go to work. You'll do your thing through the day, maybe meet your friends for a drink in the evening, come home, watch TV, and go to sleep. And then there'll be that eternal battle between the right brain and the left brain, that what is the creative side and what is the analytical side. And there'll be this battle going on. And the thing is that you should never let any side win the battle, according to me. As a musician, I would say feed the right side, but I know that's not how it works in the real world. So, what about the practices that you'll do? Little things that you can do for yourself. Go out and stare at the sea, blankly. This is stuff that we do for creativity. I do a lot of meditation. I'm heavily into spiritualism, and I'm a follower of Sri Ravi Shankar and stuff like that. And that helps me a lot. There's sometimes when I just want to empty out my brain because I'm not being able to imagine. I'm not being able to be creative. So that's what I do. I go and sit in Padmasana, and I breathe, and that's it. Suddenly, before you know it, ideas start coming. And that's when I start dreaming songs. That's a very rare thing that's happened recently. I wake up in the morning singing a melody, and I've got my iPad right next to me or my phone, and I record the idea, and that becomes a song. So there's so much to that world of imagination that we are beginning to forget about because of the way the world is and the way we work and the way we are into this routine, everyday routine, which I don't think is worth it because there's so much more. And the thing is, life is just one life. You've got one life to live, So give it that little bit of extra time for yourselves to develop that side of you. And the thing is, I think everyone should play a musical instrument. It's a must. You get a guitar and play rubbish on it, but play something because that will give you a little bit of a disconnect from everything that you do. And, I always believe I think I'm lucky that as a musician, I'm never alone. I can be the biggest loner in the world, and I can have my musical instrument with me, and I've got company. I miss nobody. That's my thing. Then, unfortunately, they say that no, imagination is completely determined by circumstance. And, because, if you're in a bad situation, you don't have the power to do that. A few weeks ago, we did a workshop with these students from a foundation called Akanksha, which was educating slum children. And I'll tell you something, the first thing that blew me away, that each of these kids spoke better English than I did. You know, and I've been to one of the best schools in Bombay. They were like impeccably the way they spoke, and it was just beautiful. And they were all learning instruments. So I asked them, in your situation in the slum, you know, some of them live in Dharavi and stuff, which is like, it is hell. I mean, I've been there. It's, you know, they all live in diversity out there, but it is harrowing. It is harrowing. You know, you have to walk across, there's a gutter in the middle, and you have to put a foot on either side and walk. So I told them, how has playing this instrument helped you? He's saying, sir, we sit with the instrument and we get lost, and we get into a different world. We start imagining things. We start imagining that we've written the biggest hit. And not one of them said that we were imagining making money. They were imagining all the other beautiful things that goes with creativity. So, you know, this is a plea that I put out to people. You know, work on yourselves, work on your children, get that thing back. Make your children listen, randomly play music for them every morning. Because see, today it's all so quick. You have your device, you listen. The other day I was sitting with two teenage nieces of mine, and they wanted me to hear the music that they listen to. Now, in my day, when we sat and listened to music, you got a new album, which was very rare because albums were not available. And you sat and you listened to the whole record, and then you listened to the other side, and then you heard it again. In 10 minutes, they must have played me about 19 songs. Hear this, Taylor Swift. Da, 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 da. Okay, go to the next song, hear this. So I told these kids, I said, you're not listening to the music. You know, you're just hearing it. This is not the way you listen to music. So, I mean, it's okay, a thing of the new generation. You know, I'm completely in agreement that they must move forward, be with the times. But I think it's a responsibility on all of us to make them know what is the old. So the right mix of the old and the new is what will take them forward. The old provides a base. It's like this solid foundation. And then the new will just go skywards. But they can always dip back and pull out from that thing. And, you know, it'll just be so beautiful if that happens. And I'm sure it can happen. It's just a matter of people concentrating towards it and doing it. Then they're the unfortunate, and it breaks my heart every day when I put on television, and I put on CNN, and I put on BBC, and I see these kids who are in Syria, you know, getting bombed out, and, you know, with all these injuries across them. And they say that we can't sleep anymore, because the moment we go to sleep, we hear the bombs. We hear the bombs, we see the blood. And I feel so helpless that we can't do anything for those people. But indirectly, we can if we all work towards doing a little bit of this, so that your generations will not ever think of a conflict like that. So I'd like to end my talk with a little phrase from a very, very favorite musician of mine, John Lennon. He says, you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Maybe someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. The name of that song is Imagine. Thank you.